Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy CJ Vogel, and we are here for your way too early breakdown and preview. And this week we're at week 3 for the Longhorns. They'll be taking on the UTEP Miners, so we'll break down their opponent this week. And our breakdown and preview brought to you by good friends over at Tackle Addict. We'll tell you more about Tackle Addict and the service they can provide for you coming up a little bit later on in this preview. But let's jump right into it, CJ. The Longhorns, we hope they'll be undefeated by the time they play UTEP. One of the things I'm noticing here is because UTEP's got some new coordinators as well. We talked about this when we had the Ohio State preview. Obviously, they got two new coordinators on the offense and defensive side of the ball. If you're going to look at it, actually, I believe they'll have three straight games where they'll face a team with a new OC. They'll have 2 out of their first 3 games. They'll face a team with a new DC. We'll get into the defensive side a little bit later on. But Scotty Walden is the head coach, also the play caller. His offensive philosophy, I got a quote here from him when he first got the job. First year on the job there at UTEP, they went 3-9. But when describing his style of offense, he said he wants his offense to snap the football every 12 seconds. That is the definition of pace and space. He actually ended up hiring a quarterback coach from TCU, Mark Kalla, I believe is his name, to be his new offensive coordinator. Now, we still believe that Scotty Walden, the head coach, is going to call the plays, but it does reinforce that maybe they'll have some of those veer and shoot principles, those up-tempo pace and space principles, bringing in Mark Kalla, who was actually under under Kendall Browse as well there. So there is some of that veer and shoot connection that I think Scotty Walden wants to not only implement but re-emphasize.
Yeah, and if you go quick with that type of offense, it can pose to be pretty challenging for an opposing defense. Now, the big thing is, will they have the pieces to make it challenging for Texas? And right now, on paper, after a 3-9 season, you'd argue probably not, right? 19.1 points per game a year ago. That's good for 120th in the country. 311 yards per game, good for 122nd in the country. So they were hovering in that final 10% of college offenses a year ago, Rod. To your point, you can kind of just throw those out the window with the new, kind of idea of this offense scheme coming in. The big piece for me and the big piece for what Texas will be looking forward to is Malachi Nelson, the big-time quarterback transfer, former 5-star, started his career at USC, transferred to Boise State, didn't win that job, ultimately transfers to UTEP, where it looks like he'll again be in a battle for the starting spot this year as well. But look, he's a talented kid. And if this is the time in which we finally get to see what Malachi Nelson can do on the football field, brand new offense, talented arm, it might surprise some folks. I know we talk about this Texas front 7 being really talented, the back end being right on par with it as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to move the ball, not score, but move the ball with Malachi Nelson at the quarterback spot.
Yeah, definitely the most talented prospect that's ever been on a UTEP roster, right? I mean, this guy once was one of the highest rated quarterbacks coming out of high school, and they're not used to getting quarterbacks like that. So they definitely want to try to maximize it. I will say, speaking of quarterback, that Skylar Locklear, who transferred, I believe, from Austin P, came from Austin P with Scotty Walden. That's where Scotty Walden came from. And this is his 3rd year, I believe, with him. And apparently it is still an open competition. They have not necessarily said that it's Malachi Nelson's job. Everybody assumes that it's the case because of the high.
I'm assuming.
I'm with you. I assume that's the case too, but I will say everything I've researched, even from the spring game, they like Skylar Locklear, and Coach Walden says that he's playing his best football too. So still an open competition, but I'm with you. I think Malachi Nelson wins that job. He'll be throwing the football. They run the passing game mostly through Kenny Odom is a good player for them. Had 46 receptions last year, 741 yards, 8 touchdowns. I believe he's going to be a junior for them. He's a good player. They also have Cam Thomas, and he's a little smaller. He's utilized, I should say, in a role they call the minor back. Like for the UTEP Miners, and they just move him around the formation a little bit. So he's got some versatility. Smaller guy, I believe he's like 5'8", 5'9", small. I say 5'8", just 5'9", small. I'm small. I'm 5'9". 47 catches for him, over 500 yards. And I think they want to try to weaponize him a little bit more. And maybe they can do that, especially bringing in, one thing we talk about, at TCU, obviously there's a connection with Mark Collar coming in. Was it Savion Williams, the player they had there? The receiver, really athletic freak. If they would move him around a lot of the times, try to, create a matchup advantage. I can see them doing some of that with a guy like Cam Thomas as well, considering their background. Yeah.
Well, they're going to have to. They're going to have to find unique ways to get the ball in the hands of their best player, because we've talked about that Texas front seven. Look, if you're unable to get the ball to your star at a UTEP, at a school that's going to be undermanned talent-wise, it's going to be a long day for you. And, Rod, the big thing for me is, look, I know they added a piece on the offensive line out of the portal at left tackle, but they didn't have a single running back or ball carrier for that instance. Look, no one on that roster in 24 averaged more than 4 yards per carry.
Wow.
That's a pretty significant number considering, they play some tough non-conference, but that conference schedule should be pretty evenly matched throughout. So you're going into a game against the Texas front where we believe that interior should be up to par with that of the SEC. I think it could be a long day for that offense.
Yeah, it will be a challenge for them. I think the running back position is still an open competition for them. Hassan Wilson as a transfer running back that came in. He scored twice in the spring game. Actually had some explosive plays, a 17-yard touchdown run in the spring game, 23-yard touchdown run in the spring game. There's also another Austin Peay transfer that is a common theme when you're trying to preview UTEP. I think his name is Marquez Taylor. So running back for them, that is going to be a bit of a challenge. I think their most reliable pieces are in the passing game, but going against Texas, you do not want to be that one-dimensional. Also, the tight end position for them, I just want to say this young man's name. He transferred from Northern Colorado, Cash Cheeks. Oh man, I'm hoping he's a star. Not against Texas, but Cash Cheeks is a great name, by the way. Shout out to his parents. Well done there. And
as close to Cash Checks, which could have been even better.
Cash Cheeks or Cash Checks, yes. If the young, exactly. I like that even better. That should be his motto. And then there's another tight end. He scored in their spring game as well. Izinwa. Hope I got his name right. I think it's Judah Izinwa. He scored a 44-yard touchdown in the spring game at tight end. So tight end is a position that may end up being a strength for him. Who knows with Cash Cheeks? But I'm with you. I think the offensive line going up against that Texas front, I think they returned 2 starters. But I'm with you. I don't know if anybody on that offensive line is going to be able to match up with Texas defensive front. So I think ultimately that'll be the biggest liability for them. Ultimately, but go ahead.
I was going to say the one last stat I had on them in terms of time of possession, only about 46.5% in favor of the Miners offense a year ago. Again, could that change with the new offensive coordinator? Perhaps. But we talk about not being able to establish a run game, not being able to hold on the football. It's normally a bad recipe for a team that's severely undermatched talent-wise. That was good. Again, 46.5% of the time of games did they have the ball. That's good for 118th in the country, Rod.
Yeah, that's and that's why that offense was one of the worst offenses in college football.
Yeah, exactly.
222nd, something like that, I believe, overall. But I will say this: strange enough, they won 3 games. They could have won 2.
They were close.
They were close. They had a 3-point loss in overtime to Southern, 4-point loss at La Tech, 7-point loss to, I believe, Middle Tennessee. 1 point. So even they were still close and fighting in some of these games, but their defense didn't help them out much. And that's what we'll jump to right now. Their defense is also one of the worst defenses in college football, 113th out of 134 teams. So, and they lost a lot on the defensive side. But I will say some of the guys coming back for them gives you a reason to be optimistic. We can start up front. Nate Diamond, I think it's D-Y-M-A-N. Good player. Yeah, right. He's a good player with 84 tackles, 10 tackles for loss returning. I think it kind of starts with him. I would say the strength of it is the back 7, starting with him, and they return 2 safeties as well. Xavier Smith, really good player, 6-foot safety, 78 tackles, 5 PBUs. They also return, I believe it's Lance Russell at safety as well, 54 tackles for him. So they got some depth and experience in the secondary. To me, the back 7 is probably going to be the strength of this defense.
Agree. There are two guys up front that I wanted to mention. Ashton Coker is a name that I knew from Katy, talented prospect, still just a little bit undersized. And then Jacon Bowser going to play one of those edge spots from Garden City Community College. Two guys that I think should be disruptive for UTEP. Will they be against Texas? Again, we'll see. But I'm with you, Rod. Other than that, that back seven should be the spot for them. And I'm interested to see how Neil Campbell, the grad transfer, kind of figures into one of those cornerback conversations as well. Yep. Ultimately, and when doing research, you try to find what the strengths of opposing teams are, and then you break that down into side of the ball, and then individually. There weren't many favorable numbers in terms of national ranks for the UTEP defense a year ago. And I hate that I'm even using this, but they ranked 64th in red zone scoring opposition. That means their opponent scored 82.9% of the time on UTEP's defense. That was one of the more favorable numbers, and that was 64th in the country. So that kind of gives you an idea of what they were like last year. Will they take a step up? I don't know, but the red zone's become such a hot topic with Texas and the way that they've been able to execute or not been able to execute in the red zone that I at least wanted to throw that up there, that they are about on par with the national average of red zone opposition scoring.
Honestly, and that's if you're facing Texas, that is you kind of hope to bend but don't break against Texas, right? And get yourself to the red zone.
Hold the 3.
Exactly, and hold them to 3. And well, last year you had the potential to hold them to 0, considering some of the people you had. So I'm with you. I think if I'm playing Texas, it's all about getting to the red zone. That's where I'll get exotic. That's where I'll hope to kind of flip some of the odds in my favor with less of that field to defend. You got to defend that entire field. Sark will make you defend every blade of grass, and that can be really difficult for any defense, but especially when you're a defense that's undermanned and a little bit inexperienced, especially on the front like a UTEP. So I'm with you. I think that may be what Sark's dealing with all next year. Your truth is just, but we'll see if Arch Manning can really change their fortunes in the red zone. I think he will. One other thing to keep in mind, though, last year at times, probably out of necessity or maybe because they just couldn't figure out exactly who their starting quarterback was, they did rotate quarterbacks at times. I think it was Cade McConnell and Skylar Locklear. If they don't know who their starting quarterback is, I'm sure it's going to be Malachi Nelson. But if they don't know by then, I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility that you see 2 quarterbacks against just to see, hey, if both of these guys, say it's a close competition, whichever one kind of balls out against this defense, which some are saying is the best defense in the country, at Texas, then maybe we'll give you the benefit of the doubt and you'll win the starting job going forward. Not saying that would be the case, but they did rotate quarterbacks last year quite a bit. All right. What are your ultimately any other last thoughts about this matchup? I mean, we've covered it pretty much as you can, considering UTEP was a 3-win team last year. But any other last thoughts as we close down the preview?
You probably didn't have to go through this one with a fine-tooth comb. I know that there are going to be some games later on in the season, Rod, in which we're going to have to. But I think we all kind of anticipate what's to come in this one. And what will be coming is a pretty hot day. A 3:15 kickoff at DKR. I do think if you're looking for games to go to and maybe you won't be able to make it for the A&M game on Thanksgiving and you just want to go see a fun game with a lot of the future, this will be one of those games. I look back to the UTSA game a year ago in which Texas won 56-7. They got 72 players on the field for that game. I think with the heat, with what you expect this game to look like from a scorer perspective, this will be a game in which you see a lot of the future Texas Longhorns on the field. A lot of youngsters getting their first crack at some big-time D1 football.
That's a great sales pitch right there. CJ, it really is. One other nugget that we did not mention, we're talking about the defense. They do have a new defensive coordinator, Bobby Daly. Spent 6 years prior to getting this new gig with UTEP as the defensive coordinator and assistant head coach at Montana State. So he was
Grizzlies.
Well seasoned, and that's a good football program. I watched way too much of Montana State because my wife actually went to University of Montana, so I end up watching these random games.
Big Sky.
Yeah, big. Hey, what you see? That's how you know CJ is a
Come
big man. I know why you're watching the Big Sky, CJ. I know
on.
why you're watching it, this
I
guy.
like the Grizz.
Go Grizz, right? All right. Let's thank our sponsor, our friends over at Tackle Addict, before we end this way too early preview and breakdown for the Longhorns. Yes, our friends at Tackle Addict, folks. If you are an avid fisherman who's always searching for the right supplies, do yourself a favor and check out tackleaddict.com, owned and operated by lifetime Longhorns Brian Robeson and former Longhorn and lifetime Longhorn as well, baseball great Brandon Belt. And they have everything you need, the best in today's fishing equipment. Tackle Addict is for the everyday fisherman and serious pros alike. You can get their product shipped to you directly from the shores of Lake Sam Rayburn. That's tackleaddict.com, ADDICT. So tackleaddict.com, and lifetime Longhorns, Brian and Brandon say hook 'em horns from tackleaddict.com. See the number right there on your screen as well, 409-698-9370. So thank you very much to our sponsor, Tackle Addict, tackleaddict.com, for sponsoring our way too early preview and breakdown. And thank you as well to CJ. Great job as always, CJ. Appreciate your knowledge and expertise. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes, because he's twisting and tweaking the dials for all of these shows. So he's the real MVP. And thank you to you guys out there as well for watching and for listening. And for CJ and for Matthew and for our friends at tackleaddict.com. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.